I want to go back to the run-up to the 2019 draft because I remember when it didn't work out for him in Washington. We talked about this a lot last week as it related to the 2018 draft class, about how where you land dramatically influences your career as a quarterback in the NFL. And you don't get to pick your team. They pick you. And I remember when it didn't work out for him in Washington, the knee-jerk reaction by many was, well, he was just an absolute and total bust. This proves it. No. This wasn't some crazy decision by Washington to take a guy that people regarded as a seventh rounder. He was widely regarded as a first-round prospect in 2019. And for whatever reason, it didn't work out in Washington. And it may not have been his fault. It may have been the organization's fault. We spend a lot of time talking about how dysfunctional that team has been over the course of the past decade plus. And I just can't help but wonder. I remember when the Steelers acquired him, Chris, I thought, here we go. The Steelers see something, and the Steelers are going to bring it out of him, and he's going to become the guy that we all thought he was going to be in 2019, and it was just a matter of time. And for all we know, that was still percolating. Mike Tomlin may have had a long-term vision in mind for Dwayne Haskins. And that part of it also, we'll never know the answer to what he could have become. And that's what makes it even more of a tragedy because he was a work in progress. We're all a work in progress, but especially at that age, you are clearly finding your way. And he still had a chance to find his way in football to the field, to a starting role for a team that is looking right now for someone to take that mantle. And I remember breaking down his film with you 3 years ago, and we saw similarities to Ben Roethlisberger, and we saw a guy who could move around with a big arm, and he needed some polish, he needed some time, and sometimes, you know, in today's NFL, for every guy that figures it out right away, sometimes it takes a little while, and that's okay. And he was in the process of figuring it out, and that's just what makes it. There's a feeling of incompleteness about this, and it's going to happen whenever someone that age goes. But there were many chapters left, many chapters left in his book, in all aspects of his life, and particularly football. And I think that's what makes it even harder for a lot of people to process. If that makes any sense at all.
No, I think you're right. I think that's kind of how I feel too. I think there's a lot of feelings there that you explained really well that are definitely going through my body. And anybody you talk to with Dwayne Haskins, as far as, yes, came out of college, only played 1 year, you know, he was one of the youngest, if not the youngest guy in the draft, if I remember correctly. At least it was up there. And I think that was part of the reason maybe he fell out of the top 5 a little bit or whatever. His teams got scared of that. I agree with you. And the fact that, hey, I mean, yes, where you go, where you land, is the rest of the organization bought in on you? Does that determine your success factor as a first-round pick or any round pick? Of course it does. And what did we hear too? Let's go back to that time of the draft. He got drafted by Washington. There was a lot of rumors that staff at that time, I think it was Jay Gruden was the head coach, right? That they weren't really, you know, the fans of Dwayne Haskins. He wasn't their guy. They were Daniel Jones guys, right? Remember, there was that whole thing too, just to speak to your point, to go, you know, there was a dysfunctional organization that made a weird dysfunctional pick at 15 where it sounds like not everybody was bought in. So that did not help. And, of course, is not going to help a guy that, yes, is young already and now going to a team that's got issues, and then half the staff is bought in, and, you know, somebody in the front office is bought in, and then there's other guys that are not. That's not going to help the development process. You know, goes to Pittsburgh. We saw a little what we liked or what we thought he could be last year. And anybody you talk to with Dwayne Haskins, I think there was 2 things that always came up to me with that. One, it was the smile. The smile was always like, oh, man, his smile, it makes you want to smile with them and laugh. Always heard that. And then when people would see him throw in person, you know, despite what you think about a quarterback or whatever else, but people would come away from Dwayne Haskins and go, man, I mean, it's spiral, it spins, it flies through the air. You know, I think he was one of those guys that kind of had a wow arm or a wow talent that way. And I think that's, to your point, Mike, what kind of feels incomplete or leaves that pit in your stomach to this short, abrupt end to his life.
As to the throwing arm, Ben Roethlisberger said on social media over the weekend, I'll say it again, just like I told you to your face, I still wish I could throw the ball like you.
Yeah, see, there you go. I didn't even see that, but that's there you go. See, that's what I heard that a lot from people. Really, it was always, whoa, man, when you see him throw, though, it's special. And Big Ben, he knows what a special arm looks like.
I think back to Eli Manning in 2004. He didn't refused to play for the Chargers because he didn't want to live in San Diego. He sensed when he visited that there was disagreement as to whether or not the organization wanted him. And there were a lot of disagreements between the GM, A.J. Smith, and the head coach, Marty Schottenheimer, at the time. And Eli sensed it, and he didn't want to be part of that. And he took a stand to avoid that. And by the time you get to the 15th pick in the draft, as you're sliding and you're wondering when the phone is going to ring, all you want is for the phone to ring. It doesn't matter where. It should. At the time, you're not thinking of that. And the possibility that Dwayne Haskins landed with an organization that was split on whether or not he was the guy they wanted, that contributes to the ultimate outcome. It's not on the player. And this isn't some new discovery that we've had. You've heard this from us many times before, as recently as last week. Quarterbacks especially, their careers are so driven by where they begin them. Who is coaching? Who is running the team? Who else is there to help the development? What other players are there? If you have nothing else, it doesn't matter how good you are. And it all happens very quickly. The games come and go in 3-hour increments. Narratives develop like that. And I don't want to say it's not fair. I don't know what's fair or not fair in that context. It just is. That's what happens. And some guys land in a perfect spot and it works for them quickly, and some guys don't land in a perfect spot. And there were few spots more imperfect in 2019 than the Washington football team. We know that. We accept that. We can agree. At a time when people can't agree on many things in this country, I think we can agree that Washington was dysfunctional as any team in 2019. So it's hard to pass final judgment on what Dwayne Haskins could have been. And that is where some of the emptiness comes from me. He had still a lot in front of him, and it still could have gone in a much different way. And we would have forgotten all about his first stop if his current stop had resulted in him playing and becoming that successor to Ben Roethlisberger that they're currently looking for. Well, it just feels, again, it would feel incomplete no matter what he did.
Right.
Because he was only 24. But as it relates to this context of football, it makes it feel even more incomplete.
It does. And I think where we're getting to here, and what banner statement, headline statement here. I mean, here's what it is about the potential of Dwayne Haskins. And let's not forget this. We see what Big Ben said there. But Ohio State, Urban Meyer, Ryan Day, all those guys there. And I know Urban Meyer, yes, it's not the best year in the world, in his life to bring him up. But they've been around a lot of good football and a lot of good quarterbacks and players. They thought Dwayne Haskins was the guy over Joe Burrow. And that just speaks to, I think, not a bad mistake or anything. It speaks to Dwayne Haskins' talent, because Joe Burrow, as we know, is one of the 5 best quarterbacks in football and got a strong arm and is a phenomenal athlete. And they went the Dwayne Haskins route. So that in itself speaks, volumes, and the fact that, there's obviously some real talent. I'm not saying he's Joe Burrow or whatever else, but there was enough there for people to go, well, we kept Dwayne. Of course we did. I mean, look at Dwayne Haskins throw. Lasers all over the field. And I think that's, what we're talking about here, because, rough start, young, bad team to get drafted by, never really got things going in the right direction. And it just would have been nice to know, where the story would have ended up and what he could have done with that potential he had with the gift at quarterback and his right arm.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.